Not every day starts with a mystery in Cascade Forest, but that Wednesday morning, something felt different the moment I stepped out of the station. My name's Emily Carson, Senior Ranger of the Pine Hollow District in Oregon, and I've walked these woods since I was big enough to tie my own hiking boots. The fog still clung low to the trees, and the early morning hush was only broken by the songs of chickadees and the occasional rustle in the underbrush. Ranger, my loyal K-9 partner, trotted beside me, his ears perked, nose already working the air like it always did. Ranger isn't just any dog. He's a certified search and rescue German Shepherd with more instincts than most people I know. Together, we've tracked missing hikers, located injured campers, and even found a runaway goat or two. I was sipping from my thermos, mentally planning the day, some trail maintenance, a school group tour, and a check on fire watch stations, when the call came through. Dispatch to Ranger Carson, over. I clicked my radio. Carson here, go ahead. We got a call from a family in Oak Ridge. Their grandfather, Joe Anderson, 78 years old, went out for a morning walk yesterday and never came back. Said he likes to wander the fire roads around Pine Hollow Ridge. I felt a knot twist in my stomach. Copy. That's rough terrain. Anyone searched already. Family looked last night, but had to stop when it got dark. They're worried. He's got a heart condition, taking his meds, but if he missed a dose, I didn't need to hear more. On it, I replied. Ranger was already watching me, tail wagging slightly, ready to work. That we set off immediately. Ranger trotted ahead, nose low to the ground, tail straight like a flag. He moved with purpose, weaving back and forth across the trail as he followed the invisible scent path Grandpa Joe had left behind. The terrain started easy, gravel roads and packed earth, but after a mile or so, it turned rougher. The old fire roads were covered in fallen branches, washed out in parts, and overgrown in others. I had to climb over logs and duck under low-hanging fir limbs. But Ranger pressed on. At a split in the trail, he paused and looked back at me, then barked once and headed left. I followed without hesitation. The forest was quiet, almost too quiet, the kind of stillness that settles in just before something changes. I felt a prickle at the back of my neck, but I trusted Ranger. About 2 miles in, we found the first clue, a red knit cap caught on a low branch. I picked it up and examined it. There were a few white hairs stuck in the fabric. This looks like Grandpa Joe's, I said aloud, mostly to reassure myself. Ranger sniffed it and let out a short bark. Encouraged, we pressed on. I radioed back to the family to let them know we'd found a sign. I could hear the relief in Lisa's voice, though it was laced with worry. Another half-mile, and we hit a creek. The water was fast from recent snowmelt, and it would have been tricky for anyone to cross, let alone an older man with a heart condition. But sure enough, Ranger circled the bank, found a spot where the earth was disturbed, then crossed. He didn't hesitate. He was locked in. I followed, boots slipping a little on the rocks, and cursed the icy splash that hit my calves. But I kept going. My job was to trust Ranger, and he hadn't let me down yet. On the far side, we climbed up into a steep hillside. The forest thickened, shadows falling deep between the trees. The ground was damp with moss and pine needles, muffling our footsteps. I kept glancing around, listening for birds, movement, anything, but the woods stayed eerily silent. Then Ranger stopped. His ears went back, and he let out a low, rumbling growl. I froze. What is it, boy? He didn't bark, just stared into the trees. I reached for my radio. But before I could say a word, Ranger surged forward and vanished into the brush. Ranger! I shouted, heart jumping. I took off after him, pushing through thickets and snagging brambles, calling his name. Then I heard it, a faint, ragged voice. Help, someone! I stopped, dead in my tracks. That wasn't Ranger. I ran toward the sound, branches slapping my face, adrenaline surging through my veins, and then I saw them. Ranger stood protectively beside a figure slumped against a fallen log. The man was pale, his clothes damp, and he looked up with weary eyes under a shock of white hair. Joe Anderson? I asked, breathless. He gave a faint nod. That your dog? He rasped. He sure is, I said, kneeling beside him and quickly checking his vitals. He was cold to the touch, and his hands trembled. How long have you been out here? Since yesterday. Took a wrong turn. Couldn't make it back. He coughed, a wet, strained sound. I radioed dispatch immediately. Found the subject alive. Coordinates coming now. Looks like mild hypothermia and dehydration. We'll need evac. Copy that, Ranger Carson. Rescue team en route. I pulled out my emergency blanket and wrapped it around Joe. Ranger sat close, nuzzling the old man gently, as if to say, "You're safe now." Joe looked at him and chuckled weakly. "You're a good boy, better than I deserve. You gave your family quite a scare," I told him, keeping my voice light. He sighed. "Didn't think I went that far. Just wanted to see the view from the ridge one last time." Got turned around. I nodded. "It happens. But next time, leave a note, all right?" We waited 20 minutes for the rescue team to arrive, but Ranger never moved from Joe's side. When the EMTs arrived, they lifted Joe onto a stretcher and started the hike back. Joe held Ranger's paw in his hand as they carried him out. I followed them, heart light, boots squishing through the muddy ground. Every step a little easier now. Later that afternoon, after Joe was safely in the hospital and his family had thanked us with hugs and tears, I sat outside the station with Ranger. He lay beside me on the porch, tail thumping now and then, eyes alert but relaxed. "Good job, partner," I said, scratching his ears. "You did it again." He licked my hand in response.